In this video, we're going to look at examples of studies, just little snippets of studies that have been done, and we're going to ask ourselves what information do we need to consider before we believe or not believe the statements that are being made. So in the first example here, it says, according to USA Today, 26% of Americans rate potatoes their favorite vegetable, making it the most popular vegetable. So some questions we might ask ourselves would be, how many people actually participated in the survey? If you don't have a very big sample, then the results aren't going to be as meaningful. How was the sample collected? Could be that this was collected using a convenient sample and could suffer from participation bias. Another question would be, what other options were given other than potatoes? Did the participants pick from a list? Did it have broccoli, carrots, corn? You know, it's possible that they even just asked people, what is your favorite vegetable? And they gave the answer without picking from a list. But we don't know that without actually seeing the survey. Our second example we have here is that a news poll reveals that 77% of Americans say Merry Christmas instead of Happy Holidays. Some questions we might consider here would be, what news source collected this data? If it comes from a biased news source, then we're going to be less likely to believe the results. How many people participated in the poll? Again, we would want to make sure we have a good, decent sample size, or else the results aren't very meaningful. So it could be, for 77%, if it was 70%, it could have been they asked 10 people and 7 out of 10 said that they said Merry Christmas. That's not very meaningful to us. How was the sample collected? Again, it could have been a convenient sample, and if it is, there's going to be bias involved. And how was the question phrased? It could be that the way that they phrased the question was biased in of itself, or maybe the answer choices they were given was biased. So another question we might ask are, were options given other than the two listed? Maybe somebody says something other than Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, but they wouldn't be able to say that unless they had another choice. Here's another example. A study financed by a major pharmaceutical company is intended to determine whether its new cholesterol drug is more effective than similar drugs of competing companies. Should we believe the study or not? What we would say is we probably shouldn't believe this. The company is going to be biased for their own product and against their competition. If this wasn't financed by a major pharmaceutical company, then I'd be more likely to believe the results. However, if they gave me some more information and maybe told me that this was a double-blind experiment, again, I'd probably be more likely to believe the results, because double-blind would mean that they were trying to remove as much bias from that study as possible. Another example says a state Democratic Party polls 2,000 of its members to determine whether its candidate for the U.S. Senate is likely to win against a Republican candidate. And this one, I probably wouldn't believe that, their candidate would be likely to win, just because there's probably selection bias here. It looks like they're just polling their own members. And so because of that, that's selection bias. And if I were to believe this, I would want to know that they had asked, 1,000 of their own members and 1,000 members of the Republican Party, or even better, that they had asked a good mixture of all the different parties out there. Another example says, a study seeks to learn about obesity among children. The researchers monitor the eating and exercise habits of the children in the study, carefully recording everything they eat and all of their activity. This study seems reasonable, although there's always a chance of confounding variables in this, right? So it doesn't seem like there's going to be much bias here, although there's always a possibility for bias. And in fact, in most studies, there's always going to be just a little bit of bias, but we want to try to reduce that as much as possible.